I wanted to share with you a story I came upon recently on my journey to self-improvement. Recently at the barber shop, while getting a cut from my barber, who also happens to be my gym partner, he shared with me about his upcoming wedding. When I asked him when the wedding was to take place, he said it would be soon, and proceeded to ask if I would ever settle down with someone. I willfully declined since I had already been exposed to the red pill, and he was amused at my response. "You come off as being selfish, my friend," he said. It bothered me that he thought of me that way, and that he also stereotyped other men that go their own way as such. I truly respect my friend's business and acknowledge what it has taken to build it up to this point. I too own a business, and it has recently gained enough traction and success, but I fail to understand how a woman would have chaperoned that success. If you ask me, a woman would only negate my efforts. I thought that my friend, who is also a flirt and can get any female he wants, wouldn't deem me selfish, since I preferred to put my attention on bettering my community and myself. I felt conflicted. What would be your self-reflection if you are called selfish? As a kid, I used to hear my mother say that my mom says that women who did not want children of their own were selfish, but I never heard the same being said about men. Reflecting on that, I have come to realize her reverse psychology tactics of trying to convince me to get engaged to a lady who truly wants children by portraying a childless woman as greedy and nasty. Very wrong, I would say. She only approved of me dating women with that mentality. Her sentiments were subtly aggressive, and she was blackmailing me to eventually procreate. All along, my uninformed mentality actually thought her views were uplifting women. My mother did not directly label me as selfish for not having children, but her targeted insults to women who opted to not have children vilify them in my eyes. By assumption, I would then opt for genuine women with the desire of having offspring of their own. She was probably attempting to shame the kinds of women she didn't want me to be with. In light of the fact that males are selfish, I would then automatically choose the selfless woman she wanted me to be with. If they don't wed, there are two primary causes. These types of demeaning techniques are used against us for two main reasons. It serves two objectives: first, to make men inevitably provide for and protect a woman by starting a family, which is regarded as selfish, and second, to make women the default guardians and caregivers for men. He will become a romantic hero as a consequence of romantic love, which has an unexpected side effect. Men are transformed into tools for women, objects that no longer respect their own aspirations, interests, and fantasies. The simp is the antithesis of the supposedly self-centered man. By default, when your friend advises you to fall in love and stop being selfish, he is basically counseling you to do just that. And I have no doubt that you won't hear his advice and carry out his recommendation because your friend's motivations are limited to being a chemically inspired white knight. People claim that single men are selfish all the time. But if you understand where they're coming from, it won't offend you. The ancient Greeks interpreted it to be a mental disorder. Eros was an advanced form of a husband and wife's love. And this, in my judgment, is separate from romantic love or infatuation, which I believe to be informed by materialism, and sadly, to be the most destructive type of all. If a mother calls her son selfish for not having a wedding, what she really ironically means to say is that if you don't get married, you won't have grandchildren, which is my ideal form of insurance. Mothers encourage their sons to marry and put themselves in jeopardy as they get older in order to prevent them from being egocentric, just so their mothers can be the self-centered ones who are bound to grow old and be cared for elsewhere. Believe it or not, your friend may genuinely be jealous of you if he calls you selfish for not getting married. He considers his soon-to-be marriage as the end of his independence and ability to pursue his true desires. And maybe his future wife will persuade him to sell his sports car and buy a minivan. I frequently observed incredibly successful men being lectured, like little children, on what they should do with their enterprises when they marry. Perhaps she will instead try to persuade him to change his business and govern it in the fashion she sees fit. Being a man and having a woman yell in your ear would make it virtually impossible for you to prosper. That is the issue with being selfless. in love, and attempting to grow a business. Because you're drinking and trying to provide your attention and affection, it gets tougher to focus on yourself at the same time and take care of your companion. A lady does not need to be pampered. And because most husbands these days spend too much time being their wives rather than bridling them, you too would most likely be a narcissistic and ego-driven man. If the woman you were dating was always seeking to inflate your ego in addition to the mother's other women, shame men into marriage, not because they want us to procreate and have babies. They instead want men to watch out for them and the other females in their peer group. Obviously, guys will be humiliated into it in the long run, and the stigma around single men being selfish is everywhere, including Hollywood films and television shows based on coworkers and acquaintances. Most of the time, there doesn't appear to be a way to escape it. So the best thing you can do is brace yourself for criticism. As a single man, you will be shamed, scolded, and told that you're selfish over and over again by people in society who hope that you won't be able to take the emotional abuse any longer and will begin dating and marrying. The consequence is that you keep falling victim to the same traps. So they sympathize with you and believe that their life will be a colossal failure in the not-too-distant future when immigration begins to harm Western economies more than it benefits them. Single men will almost certainly face condemning words from the government, accusing them of being selfish for not marrying. And governments will almost certainly be in severe need of funds. If they have to do this, males will most likely be put under the most pressure because guys are the ones that go out and pursue relationships in the first place. Nonetheless, everyone is aware that money is involved in this. The government and corporations are greedy about it. They also don't want typical male citizens to hoard and act selfishly. They prefer that women hold the money so that it can be used for tax purposes and to support the consumer economy. That's the real reason men are urged not to be alone. Single men are less impulsive and irrational, and they can regulate their spending habits because they don't have a woman pulling their purse strings. If being single is selfish, then sign me up because I'd rather fail or succeed, based on my own merits, than as a consequence of a wife's push. I thought they needed and appreciated what I felt they needed and appreciated, but what happened was that I was too selfless and then gave myself what I needed instead. Society, women, and my mother can call me selfish all they want, but I never thought that being altruistic could harm me that much. However, I am aware that when you give more than you receive, it leads to mental and emotional problems arise since you frequently disregard your needs. Many men, I know, would cheerfully give the clothes from their backs to help those in need. However, so many individuals these days are on blood pressure, anxiety, and depression medications because they opted to be tremendously kind to everyone around them rather than being selfish.